I was doing Last Temptation of Christ in 1983, and the film fell apart. And there'd been a kind of change in my career. In fact, the whole industry had changed, and I wasn't very happy. So in any event, I had a lawyer at the time named Jay Julian, who sent me a script from Amy Robinson and Griffin Dunn.
We get a phone call from our attorney saying that, Martin Scorsese wants to do your movie.
The Last Temptation situation obviously had been a real trauma for him, and he knew that he needed to show that he had the will to go back to his roots.
It was great because, in a way, it brought us back to the days when I first knew him, when he was a student filmmaker. But I think at that period of his life, he was very, very aware that he had to prove something, and it must have been a very stressful time.
I was sort of reinventing how to make a picture, to have a smaller crew, to move faster. I really felt if I don't pull this one off, it's completely over, and they'll be able to get to make another film.
Amy Robinson and I were partners. We were basically very out-of-work actors with a lot of time on our hands. We produced because we didn't want to wait around for jobs anymore.
I always say that the reason I became a producer, and I think all of us became producers, was because of material.
Amy found the script at Sundance.
It was called Lies, and it was this dark, funny, paranoid New York summer movie, and I couldn't put it down. And I called Griffin immediately.
And said, this kid wrote it when he was a student at Columbia. It was his thesis, it was his homework. But this would be a really good part for you, and we should produce it. When I read it, I had the same reaction Amy did. We found it enormously funny, but also really anxiety-provoking. I had to read it standing up and turn the pages with my big toe. And I'd just read 2 pages and go, oh my God. It was just got worse and worse and worse what was happening to this poor guy. And we said, absolutely, let's do it. I mean, I'd never had a part as big as this, but I thought it didn't particularly, as producers, cost us anything. So we optioned it from Joe Minion.
Some people would read it in Hollywood. By the way, we were trying to get it financed and set up, and people would either read it and think it was extremely funny, or they would get so upset they would throw it across the room and say, I got a terrible headache and I couldn't finish that. So we knew it was very extreme, which we thought was good.
So we started to think about directors. And we were talking about who would be a good director for this. And Amy had, of course, been in Mean Streets. And I had met on an appointment as an actor, Martin Scorsese. I'd actually met him for the kid in Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, which was, he was looking for 11-year-old kids. And I went in when I was 18. And he took one look at me and went, you're a little old, but come on in anyway. And we talked for half an hour. So I don't know if he remembered that. It's something I'll always remember.
Most people did not think of Marty as someone who made particularly, quote-unquote, funny movies, although I think The King of Comedy is a brilliantly funny movie. And I felt that he would like the script and the sort of New Yorkiness of it. So we got it to him, not knowing if he would respond.
And he was doing Last Temptation of Christ.
And we had seen a short. I'd actually seen it attached to a Disney movie that I happened to go see, a short called Vincent.
By a cartoonist named Tim Burton. And we said, that guy would be really good to do After Hours. So we sent it to Tim Burton. And he said, wow, this is incredible. This is incredible. But somewhere about maybe a month and a half, 2 months after the time we met him, we get a phone call saying that Marty's picture, Last Temptation of Christ, had fallen apart. And we said, well, wow, we're actually, we're talking to, we've already kind of started, well, all right, we'll figure it out. Let's just, so we're talking to Tim, and we said, Tim, the funniest thing happened today. We get this call from Martin Scorsese's attorney, who's also our attorney. We sent him this script like months and months ago. He goes, yeah, I mentioned that. He goes, well, his picture fell apart, and it was the first thing he read that he really wants to do, and he wants to do this movie. Isn't that weird? But anyway, So anyway, back to our movie, and he said, "Wait a minute, did you say Martin Scorsese wants to do this movie?" I went, "Yeah." He goes, "And you sent it to him first?" I went, "Well, yeah." And he went, I gracefully withdraw from the project. I do not want to stand in the way of anything Martin Scorsese wants to do." He was, really excited about the urgency that would be required to make this. And talked a lot about how long everything took on King of Comedy, how it took a lot out of him. And our background was very much from an independent, low-budget background. Everything just felt right. It was the right rhythm, and Marty was just moving and moving, and with complicated stuff. Tracks were always being laid, and they were elaborate setups. People moved so quickly and efficiently. By the time you got to your trailer, it was time to come right back. When you break down that shot, everybody just like worker ants would just put it up because they really wanted to. They weren't like, feeling like slaves. They were like motivated to go on to the next shot.
I think when Marty makes movies, he creates absolute reality, and his decision to want to shoot this movie all at night, which another director might not have chosen, because you could have shot the interior scenes in the day and had a split schedule, but it really created the atmosphere of the movie itself.
And, we started work as the sun was about to go down, and ended when it came up. I'd sleep all day. It was like living like a vampire for the 8 weeks, I guess, we shot.
And we certainly picked little corners that indicated the stillness and the quietness, and also emphasized the idea that he could not get back uptown, that this was very, very far away.
No! No, no, no! I don't believe it!
Marty did something I've never seen any other director do ever since, was give, for anyone who wanted it, the shot list. He shot listed the whole movie. So there was no doubt about what we were going to be shooting. Everybody understood the tone of this picture. It was very, very clear.
Gail, what are you doing? What's wrong?
And it was the nightmarish aspect of it that Marty went for in After Hours, a kind of surrealistic feeling.
What is wrong with you? Are you all right? Jesus.
I think he said, as a matter of fact, I know he said, he related very much to Paul Hackett. I always felt like I was playing a certain version of him at that point in his life. I remember Marty telling me when Last Temptation of Christ was finally canceled, then he got a phone call from the studio head. They just started laughing. He was very upset, obviously, but they just, what are you going to do? Just started laughing. So Marty really delighted in the awful things that happened to Paul Hackett.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh. Ow, Jesus. Oh. That's all right. That's all right. Forget it. Doesn't matter.
And when I was acting, and the camera would be on me this way, and I'd be going through some horrific Paul Hackettism kind of moment, I could see Marty in the corner of the frame. Sometimes you have to turn away, and I just see his back, just unable, trying to hold back from laughing, and I'd hear these little sounds. And he just found it hilarious what was happening to him. It always reminded me of that moment he was telling me when his picture was canceled. What are you gonna do? Just laugh.
Fare went up to $1.50 as of midnight.
You're kidding.
Marty is extremely open to actors bringing their energy and their ideas to his vision. I think Marty's so confident of what he wants that he allows people to bring as much as they can bring. And Griffin really benefited from that all through this movie, I think.
A lot of the things that I learned from this picture, I carried on when I became a director. A lot of like little technical tricks. You used to have a box of glass with a brick just to get a certain thing. You didn't know when it was coming, and I've used my box. I got a box of glass too. You just take the brick and you throw it and everything jumps. It's either good to get a reaction to a gunshot or just kind of snap people awake.
Do you know what this is?
No?
One of the other tricks that I learned is end slate. You don't say action, you say cut. You know, camera rolls, and it starts when the actor, you turn on the camera when the actor walks on the set. There's a moment where I walk into the club and I'm supposed to look like I've just a 1,000-mile stare and I've just been through hell. And I told Marty I want to do an end slate. He said, great, great. So I'm outside, and before I go, I just broke into a dead run away from the set. And I just went running around the block. I run into the bar. It was called the Ear Inn, which is up the street from the set. And I went to the bar, and I ordered free drinks for everybody in the house, for everybody at that end of the bar. Free drinks. And everybody goes, yeah. And the guy, as he's turning to have me pay, I go running out of the bar. He goes, wait, stop that guy. It was right out of the movie. Of course, I knew the ADs were gonna go and pay the bill. And I just ran myself kind of exhausted. And I stand out in front of the door, and I just push open the door and start the scene. You didn't see what happened on the outside of the door. It's what happens when you walk in the room that's important. And Marty was like, that's great. Whatever works, kid.
And where is everybody? Beats me.
It's all whatever it takes to get the moment, to make it look real.
God, what have they done to me? Pigs.
That's one of my favorite shots. I shot a lot of running shots as an actor before, and it's always been frustrating when they say, could you make it look like you're running faster? We can't keep up with you. You know, sell the running, but you're really, your legs are kind of going in this, you look ridiculous from the waist down, but on the top you're really gunning it. This is the only movie I've ever done where I was told to run flat out as fast as you possibly can. Run like your life depended on it. And, it was very exhausting. But kind of great. I got a good workout in this movie.
Are you Paul?
Yeah.
Here, catch.
Ah, the key drop shot, yes. Well, the key drop shot was a very important shot for Marty. It's kind of a signature of the movie.
Yeah, the key drop shot was shot twice. The very first time, the grip came up with a very ingenious device.
They had a plank with a hole in the middle of it, and the camera was looking down through this hole, and then this plank was tied to a top of the building by
bungee cords, and then dropping it so it would come down and getting that effect of dropping and then bounce back up.
And this whole contraption was supposed to drop right below Griffin's head.
If it became loose from the bungee cord, I'd be wiped out.
I remember sitting next to Marty as the thing happened, and I literally clutched his arm, and I thought,
it was so wildly dangerous.
And it was so frightening that even Marty said, we can't do that again.
Almost impulsively, Michael, Marty, and Amy came out with, all right, let's stop it. We're not doing this anymore, not doing this.
The ropes were smoking, and
from the camera, slipped and turned on its side or something like that.
Griffin, I think, was oblivious to it.
I went, really? I got one more. We can do one more.
It was something I will never forget.
You have to understand at this point, I love this part. I love doing this movie so much. I just wasn't thinking about the danger. I wasn't sitting here going, oh, I'm gonna get killed, I'm so scared. I just thought it was great. I was just an idiot and was just so happy to be there. Biggest problems we had with the picture was finding a suitable ending. The movie couldn't just be a guy gets dumped on, and then gets finally dumped on really bad, and then that's the end of the movie. That's just not satisfying to people. And we wanted an ending that would have that kind of victorious, not necessarily Rocky, but something that would release the audience and Paul Hackett from the confines of this, drama he'd been through downtown. What we shot was Cheech and Chong putting me in the van, and I think he just drove off. And it left the audience stuck in that van going to God knows where. And it had a really unsettling feeling.
And actually, we kind of liked that ending, but everyone kept complaining that needed some finality to it.
So we came up with a lot of different ideas and had Joe thinking about it, and probably, and at this point, Marty showed a lot of his friends, director friends, and I think Spielberg and De Palma and different people had seen the picture.
And people came up with ideas like Griffin going off in a balloon and all kinds of crazy things.
Time to go home.
The ending that we didn't go with, that was the most unforgettable, is Verna Bloom says, "I have a place where you can hide. I know where you can hide." And she looks down, and I realize she means for me to climb inside her, into her womb. And then we're on the West Side Highway, and she gives birth to me. And I'm like born out of her on the West Side Highway, and I'm covered in goop.
I thought it would have been a kind of incredibly apocalyptic and beautiful way to end the movie.
Michael Powell was an audience for many of our rough cut screenings.
At one point I said, I don't know where he should wind up at the end. I'm just not sure. And Powell walked by saying, oh, he should just wind up back at work. Yeah, well, I disagree with that. I'm not going to even comment on it. So then we went for another 3 or 4 weeks around a whole circle of different ideas.
And Marty finally decided that was the solution and then shot the sequence where Griffin does go back.
And of course, the simple approach is always the best. Have them fall out, break out of the cast, and go to work. Dust yourself off, start all over again.
Last Temptation had actually almost fallen away when we sent the script to Marty. And he was in a very depressed state, as you are, when something you really care about has seemed to have gone away. And I think he felt very powerless. But on the last day of shooting of After Hours, we were toasting everybody. We're toasting each other on the street with our champagne, and it was the last shot. And Marty turned to Griffin and myself and said, "Thank you for giving me back my love of making movies." It meant a huge amount to me because we need Marty to make movies, and if this helped him to come back, then what a fabulous thing. I also love the fact that he won the Best Director at the Cannes Film Festival for this particular film. That means a lot to me as well. And that he did, after Hours was over, get to go on, I think 2 movies later, and make Last Temptation of Christ. So it brought him full circle as well.